Hello learners, welcome to this channel, and in this video I'm going to solve Leetcode 182nd question, duplicate emails. So this question comes under easy category. They have given a table called person with two columns. One is ID, another one is email, and their respective data types, which is integer and varchar. So ID is the primary key for this table. So what do you mean by a primary key? Primary key is a column which has unique and non-null values. So each row of this table contains an email. The emails will not contain uppercase letters. Alright, so write a solution to report all the duplicate emails. Note that it's guaranteed that the email field is not null. Return the result table in any order. Okay, so what are they asking us to find is, there is a table which is called as a person with two columns. One is ID, another one is email. So we need to return those emails which is repeated more than once. So nothing but to duplicate emails. Okay, so let me make you understand. Let us go through the example which is given here and understand how we can write the SQL query for the same. Okay, so there is a table called person, ID and email. So for the ID one, the email ID is a@p.com, and for ID two, the email ID is c@d.com, and for ID three, it is a@p.com. So you can clearly see that the email ID a@p.com is repeated. So because it is occurred for the ID one as well as for ID three. So the duplicate email ID would be a@p.com. So that will be a same that we need to return in our output table. So how exactly we can solve this? We can group by the email ID. So after grouping by, so let me show it to you how it is going to look like. So this is the table which they have given. So that is a table called person. All right. So after performing the group by operation, so the table is going to look like this. 1 minute. Let me cut this and paste it over here. And let me cut this and paste it over here. All right, so this is how it's going to look like. The table is going to look like after you perform the group by operation. So after performing the group by operation, what am I going to do is I'm going to use an aggregate function count in order to count the ID. So if the count of ID is more than 1, that means that the same email ID is repeated for, or it is used by one or more person with the IDs, that is 1 and 3 over here in this case, right? So if the count of that ID is greater than 1, then I'm going to return those emails. Okay, so that is what the logic that I am going to use in order to solve this question. So let me start writing the query. So I'm going to start from the table called person. I'm going to group by the email. All right, so it is going to look like this. And if you're using an aggregate function, you have to make sure that you have to use having clause rather than using a where clause. So having count of distinct. I'm going to use distinct keyword or function over here because I need the unique IDs. That is the reason. Distinct ID, if the count of that distinct ID is greater than 1, then that email ID I need to return, right? So if you want to return that in our output table, we need to use select. So select email, and what in the output, it is not as email, it is an email with a capital E. That's why I'm going to use an alias over here. So how am I going to alias it? By using as, right? So I'm going to alias it as email, and it is going to look like this. The output table is going to look exactly like this. Okay, so that is how the the operation is done step by step. Step 1, step 2, after that the output is going to look like this. So this is what a procedure is. Okay, so let me run this query and show it to you. Let me remove this, else it will throw an error. Okay, so let me run this. If it gets accepted or not. Okay, so it is accepted. So they have considered the same example and they have got the same output as the expected output. So let me submit it and show it to you whether it passes all the test cases or not. Okay, it's running. Okay, yeah, it passes all the test cases and it is accepted as well. All right, let me explain it to you again just for a brief. Okay, so what I did was, there was a table with ID and email, we need to find the duplicate email ID. So what I did was I grouped by the email. After that, I counted the count, if whenever the count of ID, unique ID, if it is greater than one, then those email ID I'm going to return, because those email IDs are used more than once. Okay, so those are considered as duplicate. So I'm going to select email and alias is as email with capital E, because in the output it is required as like that. That's the reason why. So yeah, this is the solution for the Leetcode 182nd question, duplicate emails. I hope you have understood this question. All right, thank you for watching. Have a great day.